Hey, it's Todd Duncan. Happy New Year and welcome to the first strategy session of 2017. I think it's appropriate, since we're halfway through the month of January, to talk about what is happening. You know, maybe it started yesterday, it certainly could be happening today, and it probably might be happening tomorrow. This is a very important week for anybody that has set new goals for 2017. It's very interesting when you stop and look at the pull-through performance of human beings that come out of a year previous and set new resolutions for the year to come. What is most interesting is the huge percentage of those people that either have very infrequent success or do not enjoy any success at all with those resolutions. It's also important to point out that somewhere between day 15 and day 30, about 90% of resolutions lose their steam, lose their mojo, and the people tend to not focus on them like they did when they came into the new year. So why is that? What is the phenomenon behind, you know, setting something that you are resolving to do and then having that kind of come off the grid somewhere in the first month of a 12-month year? I think it comes down to, you know, a few things that are really important. One is most goals that are set that I've witnessed, that I've had a chance to coach people through and with, and even watch people kind of self-destruct before they get their act together, if you will. Those goals are rooted in fear and they're rooted in pain. In other words, people are trying to move from somewhere they are to a place they think they need to be because they don't like this. Fundamentally, there's nothing wrong with wanting to get away from pain. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get away from less than. There's nothing wrong for wanting to get away from being average or being in the middle of the pack, or, you know, whatever it is that is promoting you to set kind of a new objective and a new goal. But I think what is missing, it's not that anything is wrong or right, but I think what is missing is that it's really hard to sustain a goal when the predominant thought in your mind is one of moving away from fear and moving away from pain. We would think that that would provide us enough impetus and enough commitment to make anything that we decide that is a resolution, something for the new year, to stick. We would think that that would be enough, but it's oddly not enough. What I have found is that people need to realize that there is a mainspring in their life that can change everything. And it really comes down to understanding what that mainspring is. And when you kind of apply the leverage of that spring to your before and after, or your last year, this year, or your last week, next week, or your morning, afternoon decision making when it comes to goals, that mainspring is a point of leverage, and it keeps you locked in long enough for a new habit to settle in. However, when a new habit settles in, which I think all the psychologists agree, it's somewhere, depending on the degree of complexity of a habit, it's somewhere between 3 weeks and 3 months. 90 days is kind of the outside, where you have a repeated behavior that's happening on a regular basis, and at the 90th day, this new habit is formed. When a new habit is formed, you know it's formed because you no longer really have to motivate yourself to do it. It is something that has become now part of your life rhythm, part of your daily rhythm, part of, you know, what you now see as a positive in your life. And whether it's working out, whether it's study, whether it's sales calls, whether it's this, whether it's that, when it becomes automatic, when it becomes something that you're skilled at, that you're good at, that brings you joy, not pain, that brings you a better future, not a ugly yesterday, those are the things that act as that mainspring to keep you going. What I find interesting is that according to brainstatistics.com, roughly 91% of people in the month of January either fail at a New Year's resolution, fail to achieve a breakthrough on a New Year's resolution, or have given up on the resolution altogether. That's rarefied air when you're the remaining 9% that doesn't fall in that statistic. So what is it about the 9% that's different than the 91% that gives them that leverage, that gives them that mainspring? I think what it comes down to is it comes down to really a purpose. It comes down to, why am I wanting to do what it is that I am saying I am resolved to do in the new year? Far too often people don't assemble in their mind a kind of a motives inventory. A motives inventory is when you do something different, when you do something new, what does it mean to you? In other words, what is my motivation to do it? Because I have a motive now that is centered on the future. It's centered on something I want to go after. It's centered on something that is going to make me feel better. It's centered on something that's going to bring me joy. It's centered on something that's going to give me a healthier self-esteem. It's centered on something like energy or just physical strength or clarity. I mean, there's a host of things that fall in to this category called a motives inventory. Whenever you are wrestling with should I, shouldn't I on a New Year's resolution, should I go to the gym or shouldn't I, or it's raining, what do I do now, or this or that, or whatever it is, applied to anything that you have resolved to do. When you can lock on to one or two of those motives, when you can lock on to what is the end emotion that you're going to experience, and you can see and feel and begin to internalize that emotion in the moment you're making a decision, the decision to go forward and do whatever it is that you're resolving to do is made more easy. It's easier to get your head around, it's easier to lock onto, and it's far easier to stick with. So there's this very delicate spot, and we're in it right now. We're in the delicate spot of January. And in February, many of you are going to have new habits that are so close to taking root that you're just days, maybe weeks at the most away from that new habit being formed. Some of you, if you don't really get your head around the motives inventory, the why am I doing this, what is this designed to do or bring me, are going to find yourself in February kind of backsliding, and maybe sooner than that. And the difference between the 9% and the 91% is nothing other than the smaller percentage has locked on to a couple things. They've locked on to the motive, what am I going to get out of this, and what is it going to bring me? The other thing that they've locked on to is they've locked on to the discipline that gets easier and easier and easier as the new habit is formed. In fact, I can go so far as to say that when a new habit becomes automatic, it requires no discipline. It's automatic. It's part of your DNA. It's part of who you are now. It's part of your success equation. And now, when you don't engage in that habit for whatever reason, and it happens to all of us, you don't feel bad about it. You just get after it, and you make room, and you fit it in, and you decide when, and you go do it. And so the difference is phenomenal. And the complexity of starting and stopping, the inefficiency of starting and stopping. The gaps that are formed in a stop are the very gaps that can take you away from ever starting again. And then what we do is we get through the year, and in December we look back and nothing fundamentally has changed. So I want a different year for you. I want 2017 to perhaps be your best year ever. I'm gunning to make it my best year ever. And you need to decide, what is it that you're going for and why are you going for it? And if you can get really clear on that and get really centered on what it's going to bring to you, then there's a strong likelihood when you marry up skill with that emotion that you're going to make some things happen. A couple more things that I think are important to keep the spirit engaged. One is having a dream board, really taking a look at maybe the top 6, 7, 8, 10 things you want to achieve in the next 1, 2, 3, or 4 years, and having a beautiful 3-4 foot dream board with those pictures and just a couple of words like choosing health or abundant cash flow or raising great men or whatever it is that you might assign to words that kind of guide imagery when you look at a dream board. That keeps you on track. It's really hard when you look at the images of what you want in your life and you understand the importance of those images in your life. It's really hard to ignore that. So a dream board can keep you on track and take you to new levels. The final thing that I would say is that each day it's kind of important to reflect on what you're grateful for, to really reflect on what good has happened today, what are the things that you can look at that today, and they may or may never happen again, but today, you are grateful for these things. And when you keep the positivity of spirit around what you're really grateful for, then it's more likely you'll stay on track. It's more likely that you won't recede in this kind of commitment to going forward and growing forward. So this strategy session is hopefully very timely for you. And what I would look at is I would look at these really clear ideas. One, move towards pleasure and joy. Don't run away from fear and pain. Have a motives inventory. Why are you doing what you're doing? Whatever it is that you're resolving to do, why are you doing it? And what is it going to provide for you emotionally? Lock on to imagery, to taking your goals into writing and then bringing it alive with images. Anything that you want in your life, you can go to Google and just type in what you want and click the image button, and you can see images that represent where you want to go. Images drive creativity and they drive emotion and they bring resolve alive. And so do that. And then finally, each and every day, don't forget to really look deeply into your soul. And if you've got a mate with him or her, just ask, what are the things you're grateful for today? And if you do those 4 things, I promise you 2017 is going to be great. All right. Looking forward to being your content partner. I care deeply about your success. Let's make 2017 a year we will not soon forget.